If you're grinding to achieve your goals, whether it's running a marathon, running a business, or running your life, WIS gets you. WIS is a tax and accounting firm that goes beyond the numbers, and we're super pumped to be partnered with them. Looking to level up your business or career? Make it happen with WIS. That's WISS.com/JWS. Welcome to the Just Women Sports podcast, where we talk to the biggest athletes in the world about the untold stories behind their success. I'm Kelley O'Hara, and my guest today is WWE superstar Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is a groundbreaking pioneer in the world of professional wrestling. A former NXT Women's Champion, Sasha is a multi-time Raw Women's Champion and one half of the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. In 2016, she and Charlotte Flair became the first women to ever headline a WWE pay-per-view event. And at Wrestlemania 37 in 2021, Sasha and Bianca Belair became the first African-American women to headline Wrestlemania. Sasha Banks, welcome to the show.
Thank you for that introduction. Thanks for having me.
I know, what an incredible
it's like a
resume.
It's like a little memory lane.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it helps me because sometimes I forget. People are like, what's your resume? I don't know. I've done so much. It's crazy.
You have done so much. And before we get into it, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a total novice when it comes to WWE and professional wrestling. But in preparing for this, I got super pumped because, one, you're just an absolute boss and have done so many groundbreaking things within this space. And also the amount of dedication and sacrifice it takes to become the best of the best in the wrestling world is just so impressive. So I'm really excited to talk to you today and just like hear your story. So before we get to you becoming Sasha Banks, your real name is Mercedes. You grew up in California, but you moved around a lot as a kid. So let's talk about your childhood. Like what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I was born in Fairfield, California, which is the Bay Area of California, kind of right in the middle of San Francisco and Sacramento. I lived there till I was 9, and then my mom just picked up and moved us to Iowa, where she was originally from. So I went from going and seeing the city to living on a farm and just being like, oh, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
It was a crazy, just a lifestyle and a different change. And in that really, really small town of Belle Plaine, it was. I was the only legit like colored girl in that whole town. So it was difficult for me growing up and just changing, not just like my school, my whole environment, my whole state. So after living in Iowa, we moved to Oregon, we went back to California, then we went to Minnesota, then we finally ended up in Boston. And that's why I call Boston home, because that's where I really found myself. I remember being 13 years old and living in Minnesota and emailing so many pro wrestling schools because I was so obsessed with the WWE since I was 10 years old. And that was like my only dream was to be a WWE superstar. And ever since I was 12 and 13, I just messaged all these wrestling schools all over the world, and all the response back were, you're not old enough, you can't, like, we can't do that, I'm sorry. But I remember one school was in Boston. So when we moved there, I was just like, wow, this is the school I'm supposed to train at. It's supposed to be it. And everything just kind of happened in Boston. And, you know, I do put the boss and boss ton.
You definitely.
So it just works.
I love that. So, okay, you were 13 when you started reaching out to wrestling camps, and the first time you saw wrestling was on TV as a 10-year-old.
Yes.
And how,
I mean, I would actually have to say I was a little bit younger. I remember
Okay.
watching, just seeing it with my birth dad when I was really, really young, but being really, really confused. So like in California, like AAA was on, which is a lucha company. So I saw all these wrestlers in like lucha libre masks. But in my mind, I thought it was like kind of like Power Rangers. So I didn't really understand what I was watching until 9 years later, here I am in my room, and there was nothing on television. We had no cable. So I'm just scrolling through the channels and just clicking away. And then I see WWE and I go, what this is different. This is interesting. It's a little violent. I'm like, is my mom going to let me? I hope she doesn't come in. Instantly, I was just hooked. My eyes were glued on the TV and I'm just like, what is this? It's acting, it's drama, it's it's sports, it's theater, it's everything. People are bad guys and people are booing them and fans are yelling at them and they're holding up signs. It's so much energy. I'm
Yeah.
so like entranced. And next thing you know, my mom walks in the room and she goes, "What are you watching? Turn that off. Go to bed, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay, mom," turned it off, walked across to my brother's room and turned it back
Turn
on
back
and
on.
finished watching it. And ever since then, I had to watch it every single week. I had to go to the library after school just to learn everything I could about wrestling. I had to skip out, hang out with friends at night and play like night tag games because I wanted to go and watch wrestling. I was so just obsessed. I was just like, this is everything. This is my life. And I know when I grow up, this is everything that I want to be.
I find that so incredible that at that young of an age and also an instant reaction to it.
An instant.
That's so
It was just hooked like a fish. I was like, damn, they got me good.
like
They got me
this
so
was your
good.
calling, and it seems like it was kind of a chance, a coincidence that you came across it.
Absolutely. I definitely think the universe put this in my light, in my source, just to be like, you know what, Mercedes, I know you're searching for your dream, your passion, but I'm going to tell you right now what you're going to be
This
and
is
what you're going
it.
to be chasing and what you're going to be dreaming every single night, daydreaming nonstop, going to sleep, thinking about it, writing about it. Like there was just so much that I just instantly was like, how can I start today?
Oh my gosh. I love that. I think that's so cool. And I feel like that's very unique for most people. Like it's not necessarily an instantaneous reaction or knowing, oh, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And also just the fact again that it was in the moment, you knew, you didn't know much about it. You were just like, what is this? I'm hooked. Um, before you saw wrestling, had you been playing other sports? Was there like any other part of you that was like going out competing, that sort of thing?
I did track and field when I was in elementary.
Okay.
Um, and I was the fastest girl in Iowa. Yes,
Yeah, you were.
Yes, I was. Look it up somewhere in the newspaper. I was.
Belle
So that's what I was
Plains,
really
Belle
good at.
Plains.
Iowa City
Okay.
at that point. And I dabbled in baseball and basketball, played tennis, and I sucked at it. I tried a little bit of everything in sports, but once I saw wrestling, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. But I loved track and field. I loved running.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's what I find really cool about wrestling is like you guys are athletes. Like you are super athletic, so you must have that base, right? But like you take that and then you put it with your passion and you get Sasha Banks, which
You get everything. You
yeah,
get this
exactly.
competitor, like this competitiveness, because in the ring, it's real. Like I
Yeah.
legit want to win. When I look across that ring against my opponent, I want her to know that I'm the best. So not only is it physical that I have to look in decent shape year round,
Yeah.
like mentally, it's physically, it's beauty, it's hair, it's a whole performance that we have to go out there and show not just ourselves, but like the whole entire world that we're more than just super athletes, we're entertainers.
For sure. Were there any women wrestlers when you first got into the sport that you were like, "Oh, I want to be like that?"
I would have to say it wasn't really the women that got me hooked. It
Okay,
was
cool.
Eddie Guerrero was the man that I was just like, wow, I want to be just like him. But there
Okay.
was women like Trish Stratus, Jacqueline, Jazz, Molly Holly, Victoria. They were all amazing, incredible women, but they weren't doing it like the men because they weren't given that same opportunity as the men.
Yeah.
So when they were coming out there, their segments were 1 minute, 2 minute, either bikini matches and just something that I couldn't sit there and watch with my mom and tell her like, hey, this is what I want to do. Because she was be like, that's what you want to like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to be like Eddie Guerrero. What do you not understand? I want to change the perception of what it is to be a woman in the WWE. Like I want to be more. Um, and those women were more, they were everything. But at that time and just that era, the sex appeal was just what it was, you
Yeah.
know?
No, that makes perfect sense, and it's cool as a kid without even seeing the female in that role. You were like, no, that's not the role I want to play. I want to be what the guys are. I want to be headlining.
I I've always wanted to be like the guys. I always wanted to wrestle, tussle, and just like you didn't have to put a gender to something to know that you're number one.
Totally.
I didn't want no pity trophy. I want the biggest trophy. I want that 10 grand, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what people need to realize. Whether you're a female or a male, you just need to come into the game knowing that you're the best.
Absolutely agree. So you see wrestling on TV, you sneak around, you go to the library, you catch it however you can, you're getting
Yeah.
your fix, you're learning about it, and then you said that you emailed wrestling camps at 13.
At 13. So
What
I
does that
emailed
what does that mean? Like who are you emailing?
so I'm emailing, I'm doing my research because
Okay.
I'm like, how do you become a WWE
Yeah.
superstar? And thank God for the internet and Google. And I found out that there are wrestling schools and there's more than just WWE. There's independence, there's Japan, there's Mexico. And I was just like so amazed that there was just more than what I saw on television.
Mm-hmm.
This is a whole thing. It's not just that. Like in Japan, they treat it like a sport. In Mexico, that's a whole different style. People go to Germany and train a different style. Like it was just a whole thing that I was just like, oh my gosh, there's just so much more to it. I have to learn it all. So I would message schools in Canada and Mexico and the UK and Boston and Minnesota. And they would all say, no, you have to be 16, you have to be 18.
Okay.
And I remember watching this DVD of RVD, who's a professional wrestler in WWE, but he also had an MMA background. So I was like, maybe that'll help me get ready to become a WWE superstar. So at 13, I found an MMA school. I called it up and I was like, hey, I really want to be a wrestler, but I saw this DVD and I thought maybe I'll try MMA. He's like, okay, come on Thursday. My mom came back from work and I go, hey, mom, I'm going to start MMA on Thursday. Is that okay? Can you drive me? She's like, yeah. Okay, here we go. You know, so I was always doing something to get myself ready and prepared for what I wanted to be in the future.
That's incredible. So
It's
did you like MMA?
I I did like MMA, but the only thing that I didn't like was legit getting hit in the face.
Yeah,
I was
makes
so
sense.
terrified of getting like cauliflower ear. I didn't want to lose the beauty, the money maker of what the appeal to WWE was. So I was always so terrified of just like busting my face or breaking my nose. But with MMA, they really do teach you the basics of how to protect yourself, how to fall, how to roll, how to even lock up. So it helped me so much right when I first even got into the WWE or even in wrestling to even show me how to be just a strong person and protect myself as a woman.
Yeah, makes sense. You like learned the initial technical game of wrestling or like
Yes,
techniques of wrestling.
of just protecting yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. So you said when you got to Boston, you end up at a school that that you get to train. Is this the MMA school or is this?
This is finally, well, I did go to MMA school, but this is finally the be all and all wrestling school of my dreams.
Okay.
So I looked up this school in Boston called Chaotic Wrestling,
Okay.
and I saw that they were going to have a fantasy camp going on, which is for new people who wanted to try to be a wrestler to get like a first day experience, you know, run the ropes, do some rolls, cut some promos. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have 2 months to prepare. I'm skinny mini. I'm like 98 pounds. Here I am in my room just doing squats, push-ups, trying to eating all I can to be like, you know, I have to be strong. I have to be a wrestler because I also thought I was going to be the only girl there. And little did I know, walking to that door, I was the only girl there. So I really told myself, you know, I want to come on here and be the best because the person who impressed the coach the most would get 3 months free training. And I was so poor growing up. So I needed that so bad. So I went in there with such fire and determination. And I walked out of that camp winning and never had to pay for training ever.
That's incredible. And so
It's so crazy.
You were wrestling the boys, or you had to go against the boys.
I was training with the boys.
That's amazing.
I had to do everything with the boys, which I think really helped me with my foundation and just my toughness because, you know, they treated me just like them. I had to be body slammed just like them. I had to take a clothesline just like them. I had to take a backdrop just like them. I bled, I sweat just like them, you know, but I wanted it. I wanted to show them that I can do it just like them.
Love it. That's so cool. So what was your first, so chaotic wrestling, that tryout was basically your first real intro into the sport.
Yes.
What was it like? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but going in and being in the ring and being like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Like, this is live.
I remember just sitting in the car with my mom and just crying. and just thinking, you know what, this is my everything. This is everything that I ever dreamt of since I was 10. And at this time I was 18. So I was telling my mom, like, this is it. I have to do it. Like I'm going away, like this is like I'm gonna die or something. But it's just so dramatic. Like, Mom, I'm gonna make it. I have to do it. And we just kind of cried together because she knew how much that meant to me and how much I wanted to be a wrestler. And I wiped my tears. I walked through those doors and I was just like, huh, all right, not what I expected, but I think I got it. I think I can prove to them that I really want to be here and that I can win, this training sessions.
That's awesome. At what point did your mom come around to the idea of you wanting to be a professional wrestler? Because,
It's
the initial reaction was like, get that off television. And then
Yes,
she's the
it
one
it
taking
took a
you
while
to
to
chaotic
all my
wrestling.
shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for my mom because she took me to all my training practices. She would take me to my shows and, watch my brother. And I'm just so thankful because when I first started watching it, she hated it. And it was like pulling teeth because I was so afraid that she was going to take something that I fell in love with so quickly. It was
Mm.
not like any type of love. It was just like this instant fire connection, this do or die. Just this is what I have to be. And it wasn't until I really was like 14 and I've been watching it for 4 years. She's like, man, you really want to do this? And I'm like, yes, I really want to do this. And she just supported me all the way. She would always get me, my action figures, my WWE magazine. She would take me to any wrestling and indie shows that we could afford. And, she just really believed in me. And when I finally got signed, it was just pure happiness because it was like, wow, man, my daughter really proved to me that she did her dream.
Yeah, that's so special. I'm like kind of tearing up over here because I just think that's so cool. So when you go in, you prove yourself, you win this 3 months of free training from
Yeah,
Chaotic, and from there, do you get signed by Chaotic? Is that how it works, or did you became part of Chaotic and then you were
I
wrestling
came.
for them?
So I
Okay.
became part of Chaotic,
Okay.
and they had their own like indie company out there. And when I was first training, you had to be like the bodyguard at the show. So here I am again, like 99 pounds, wearing a gray T-shirt, being a bodyguard for all these wrestlers to make sure all these fans don't touch them. But that was just a good time to sit back and watch the show and just really observe, how does everything work? Because there's so many little things that people don't know about what we do in that ring. It's just so crazy. It's so magical. So I probably did that for a good 6 months before I had finally my first match ever. And I remember having my first match and just crying my eyes out because I thought I sucked. I was like, oh my God, it was so bad. I can't believe it. But I did that probably for my first 2 years in wrestling. I thought every match I had was just the absolute awful. I was like, oh my God, I just can't believe I'm awful.
Why did you think you were bad?
I don't know. I always just wanted to be the best. And if I didn't feel like I got a reaction off of something, or if I didn't feel like um, if I did something good, I would eat myself up because I just wanted to prove to the guys every single night, like women can wrestle and women can do this and women can do that. Just because back then women weren't given the chance that we see now. Here I got to make an event Wrestlemania, but it took this long journey for even that to happen. So back then in 2010 when I was in the indies, it's like still back then the men didn't really respect the women, so I had to only prove to them, the fans, but I also wanted to prove to myself that I can belong here. So I always just came back like hating myself because I just wanted to be number one and to have the respect of everybody.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very common um plot line or theme in women's sports, is that we feel like we have to over deliver. We have to be the best of the best at all times to prove that we are
Like
who
we
we are.
belong,
Yeah, that
right?
we belong. Exactly, exactly. So it's interesting to hear you say that. I mean, and it makes perfect sense, especially in the world of wrestling. Like you felt like you had to be perfect all the time, even in your
All the
beginning
time.
years. Yeah, that's
All the time.
that makes sense. So just a year after joining Chaotic Wrestling, you win the women's championship. Did you?
With chaotic.
Well, yeah, with Chaotic. So, like, did you? you even said you were crying for 2 years after every match, but you go on and that's a pretty quick ascent
It
in
is.
within that group. So what was that like? How did that feel?
It's crazy. It's crazy to look back at it now from where I am right now. But back then, when I was 18, um, I was just like so honored because I remember when I was like 13 and begging my mom for a replica of the WWE Women's Championship. And like, do you know how much that cost? It's
I
like real
don't.
gold. It costs so much money. We had to like work so hard just to get myself that replica. And for this company to believe in me after only a year of training and just being so new, they created this women's championship because there was finally women in the company that can represent something. They didn't have that title before I
Yeah.
came in.
Wow, I didn't realize
So
that.
yeah, so they made that because finally a woman was training at that facility. Finally, they wanted to book other women to get myself matches. So they created pretty much that title and wanted to make a women's division. And it's crazy to think about it. And I'm so thankful I can even remember that. But I was so honored because I was like, not only am I creating something and making something happen, I'm giving women opportunity to show their skills at one of the top companies in New England. So
Yeah.
it was crazy.
You went in and you created a path that wasn't even there before.
It's I thank you for making me remember. Like this is crazy. That is pretty crazy.
You should be proud. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, like I said, this is a trip down memory lane for you. So you should be proud of that. I didn't even realize that in preparing that is how that came about. Like Chaotic didn't even
Yeah.
have a women's championship, and you
No.
coming in and being the wrestler that you were, they created that because of you. That's incredible.
Wow. Yeah. That is crazy. Oh my God.
So, and like you said, yeah, exactly. So, and you just said you're 18 at the time. What
Yes.
does that's like in your so what does your life look like as an 18-year-old
Um
while also being a professional wrestler? Like what is that?
Uh, pretty weird and different. So, since the age of 14, I started going to online schooling. And then I dropped out of school when I was in eighth grade to take care of my brother fully and to get a side job to help my mom. So I was at 18, working at a shoe store, working at a hotel, and just taking care of my brother and going to training at nighttime. So it was just this daily routine of just like, okay, gotta just keep on working, just
Wow.
gotta keep on hustling, and just gotta keep on working my butt off so I can get to the WWE one day, or get to Japan, or get to Mexico, because I was so stuck and always thinking that my whole life was just going to be taking care of my brother and never living the dream that I always sought for myself.
Yeah. So you were full on grinding it out.
I was grinding nonstop. I even tried to become a personal trainer at Gold's Gym, and that only lasted 2 weeks because I was just like, this is too much, and I'm scared of people, and I don't know how to talk, and it was a lot.
Oh my God, I feel like you would be a great personal trainer.
Now I would, but
Yeah,
back
true. Back
then
then. Yeah,
I
true.
didn't even know how to lift a 25 plate. The guy just said, you look really cute and can get clients, I bet. I was like, thank you.
Thank you. I'll take your job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So you create this new path. You go and you're groundbreaking with Chaotic. You win a women's championship. You're just grinding it out. You're trying to make it because that is what I mean, this is your calling in life. And you end up with a tryout for WWE in 2012. So how did that come about and what did that entail?
That came about from WWE coming into Boston. So whenever WWE had a show, they would ask for extras that were local.
Okay.
So I would ask and email them. I'm like, if you need any locals, here I am. So I'd always go to shows, and they would give us like mini tryouts and like mini 5-minute matches. And I would talk to William Regal, who was like one of our scouters at the time, and he would just keep on giving me advice. So every time he saw me, I improved and I wanted to get better. And I finally got a phone call that they wanted to send me down to Tampa for a week-long tryout. And I just couldn't believe it because that was my 2 years into wrestling already. And here I am getting the biggest tryout of my dreams. And, when I flew down to Florida, to Tampa, I really told myself I can't leave here unless I get signed. And it was I can't say it was a hard tryout.
Really? I was about to say, were you like,
I can't say it was that hard, like in the ring stuff. What really scared me was always talking and promos and looking like,
mm.
a diva at the time. I had no idea how to wear a dress. I didn't know how to wear heels. I didn't know how to do my eyebrows, put eyelashes on, or do my makeup. And I
And
didn't
that's such an integral
feel
part of like becoming
of
who you,
that world.
yeah, yeah.
So I was always just so shy of just that sense. But in the ring stuff, I was like, I know I got this in the bag. I've been studying this since I was 10. It's not just, picking up in the ring when I was 18. It's like the mental game nonstop. Like I've been watching tapes every single day since I was 10 years old. Do you know how many hours that is? I don't, because I
That's
don't
so
know. I don't have a
incredible.
calculator on me, but I'm sure it's a lot of hours. It has to equal up to years. So, I really prepared myself, before I even knew I needed it.
Yeah, I mean, that's so that's interesting that you go have technically the biggest and most important tryout of your career. It's going to
My
basically
life.
determine, yeah, your life. And looking back, you're like, it wasn't actually that hard because you had been preparing
I've
for
been preparing
since you were a child for this.
since I was a child. And, there was past guys that used to be in the WWE that I used to train with. And I just asked him, I'm like, what's the tryout like? What do I need to do? Like he would just grill me like, here, this is what they're going to do. And this is what the roles are going to do. And hit the ropes like this. And, I was in that ring 24/7, just getting myself ready for that week-long tryout, just so I knew that I was number one.
Were you nervous going in or did you feel prepared?
I was so nervous. I
I
was
mean,
so nervous because I was with the best of the best. I was with people from all over the world they scouted, and top people in the independents that I grew up watching, that I was like, wait, oh my God, is that Sami Zayn? Like I'm being a fan. I'm like, I'm gonna try it with Sarah Del Rey. Ah, like being like that, like I couldn't believe who I was gonna try it with. So I was looking around like the competition, like, wow, I really have to stand out and really have to show them that I can be better than the people that have been working even longer than me, 10 years longer than me, 15 years longer than me, and have
yeah.
traveled the world and have even more extensive, even background than I have. So I just really had to be like, okay, you know,
Deep breath, here we go. That
let's
it's
go.
yeah, I feel like that also that happens in a lot of other sports. Like as almost a, I mean, I would say you were a prodigy. Like you were a child, a 10-year-old being like, I'm gonna be in the WWE and we're getting a tryout by the time, in the next 10 years. And so many kids who, not kids, but girls who end up coming onto the national team or, go and play in a different like tennis, those sorts of things, they're looking around being like, I'm about to play my idol, or like I'm gonna practice with my idol. Somebody I've been looking up to, and that was you
Yeah,
in Tampa that week.
it's so crazy. It's crazy. And it's weird now that, like, still to this day that I work in this company, I still get to work with so many people that I grew up watching. I'm like, wait, I think we might be friends now. Not only am I a fan, but we're friends. This is
Totally.
this is a cool life.
Yeah, that's very cool and very impressive. And on top of that, you go down, you try out, biggest tryout of your life. They give you a contract, and Sasha Banks is born. So where did that name come from?
The name came up really just randomly. They
Okay.
asked me to give like a group or just a long list of names, and I just always remember putting Sasha with a different last name and Banks with a different first name. And I remember just debuting at a house show for WWE, and I needed a name. I couldn't just be Mercedes KV. Finally, Sarah Del Rey came into the room and she goes, "You got a name?" I go, "Oh my God, what is it?" She goes, "It's Sasha Banks." I'm like, "Ooh, I love it. It sexually sounds really, really good." I text my mom, "Hey mom, I got a WWE name. It's Sasha Banks." She ended up calling me and goes, "That's a porn star name. Tell
Oh
him
no,
to change it." I
mom.
go, "Mom, I can't tell WWE to change the name." It was that's how my mom is.
Well, has
She's
mom come around to the name since then?
she has to come around to
Yeah,
the name. She's
exactly.
like Mama Banks now.
Oh, nice. I love that. Um, so this is what I'm very interested about is like obviously you are Mercedes, but you are also Sasha Banks. And you created this persona.
Mhm.
So how much, you get the name, but then how much of the Sasha Banks that, the fans see today was conceptualized all the way back then, like in the beginning?
I have to say it has to be all of it.
Yeah.
It's a huge growth because Sasha Banks is everything that I wanted to be and or what I needed when I was a kid.
I
You
love
know,
that.
I needed someone that was confident, who was fierce, who's a badass, who's sexy, who can stand up for herself, who won't take no for an answer. Like I needed who I am today as a kid. So I looked at that. And I also looked at who my family was. My first cousin is Snoop Dogg. And I remember being around him when I was a kid and all the people around him calling him boss. I want that. I want people on my hands and feet and calling me boss. Let me take that. You know, so I just always took little things that kind of influenced me. And I liked Floyd Mayweather because people hated him. I'm like, I wouldn't be a bad guy. So let me take a little bit of his cockiness and that glasses. Let me take a little bit of Kanye West. Let me take a little bit of Nicki Minaj. Let me change my hair and color my hair because that's what I wanted to do when I was a teenager. And my mom said, no, let me just be everything that I wanted to be fully in my heart as a kid. And now here I am today as not only Sasha Banks, but I am Mercedes Bernardo. And she is so much her that it's not even a character. You're just saying my WWE name, you know?
Yeah, for
It
sure.
is, but yeah, it is, it was, it is. It's just crazy that I just took my hero self being the character that I am now.
So what I love about that is that WWE, I feel like in preparing for this interview, I called one of my good friends who is a huge WWE fan. Shout out Justine. She helped answer a lot of questions, and we talked about how WWE is huge for kids. Like kids love watching it. Obviously,
I
you love
love it.
watching it as a 10-year-old. And I was like, that makes sense because you basically it's like watching heroes in real life, like superheroes in real life. And so that's very cool that you made your persona, like you made who you are for WWE, which has now become who you are, what you wanted to see and be when you were a kid.
It is. It's crazy. And like anybody can do that now. Anybody can go back and be that hero who they wanted to see as a kid. And then when you realize that all that past life trauma or all those past life thoughts kind of just disappear because you're like, whoa, I'm good. Because I am here now in my present exactly who I need to be. So it's a beautiful thing when you get to finally feel yourself and find yourself. And you know, I'm so thankful for WWE to like help me become the woman that I am today.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's very, very cool hearing you say that. In the wise words of Beyonce, don't try to lessen yourself for the world. Let the world catch up to you. True leaders know that. To be successful, you have to set the pace and run your own race. And sometimes that means running a race inside an empty stadium. WIS is a modern tax and accounting firm that cheers on the underdog. They're the coach you need by your side to support all your business needs. Whether you're looking to scale your business, sell your business, or just you have questions, WIS is your one-stop financial expert. They're also into tech, entrepreneurship, and, well, obviously, Beyonce. Expect the unexpected at WIS. That's WISS.com/JWS. So what was the thing that surprised you the most about transitioning to NXT? Because to help some of the listeners or to explain, WWE is like the top of the top, right? And then
Right.
NXT is kind of the place where character development and people train and then potentially make it into WWE. Is that correct? Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's how the old program was. So
Okay.
NXT was probably it's called like our developmental system.
Okay.
It's like if a wrestler goes to college, this is where you learn how to be a WWE superstar, how to do your promos, how to make your characters, and how to practice wrestling in front of an audience. Like we would
Hmm.
travel all around Florida and do shows in front of a large audience, just like you would see on WWE, but on such a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Now on NXT, it's on every Tuesday night on USA. So it's just like a Raw or a SmackDown because of all the work that the superstars that you see now put in back then. But going to NXT from chaotic was so hard. I went from training 2 to 3 days a week to training 5 days out of the week and doing house shows on the weekend and only getting Sunday off. And my whole life was wrestling, but now I'm signed by a company that every single day has to be WWE, WWE, WWE. You got to
Yeah.
prepare yourself to make it to the main roster. So it was so difficult and just really cutthroat too, being a woman. When I first started, there was only a handful. I would have to say at least I started out with 8 women, but it's cool to see now there's probably like 37 women in the company down at
Wow.
NXT from all over the world, from all different backgrounds. So it's just the growth from what it was from 2012 to 2021, just like night and day.
Yeah. So and when you first started or with NXT, there were multiple rivalries between you and Charlotte Flair and Bailey, which kind of
Yeah.
defined your first few years in WWE. So how did those storylines first come together?
The first storyline came together with Charlotte Flair, who is the daughter of Ric Flair, one of the most legendary Hall of Famers of all time. You know, everybody knows who Ric Flair is,
Yeah.
and this is his daughter. So I'm just like, wow. I'm just already so shocked and amazed just because of the name alone, and I just knew the legacy and the bloodline that she just had to have.
Hmm.
But that made for competition. I'm like, okay, you got a last name, honey,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I'm not going to make one for myself.
Yeah.
So that's where the real life competition came, and just wanting to really have like the same goal of putting the real life competition to come to play, to show the audience and the guys in the back and the company that, hey, women can make noise just like the guys, and we want to be on pay-per-views just like the guys. Oh, actually, we want to headline just like the guys. So I'm so thankful for women like Bailey and Charlotte and Becky and all the women that I got to train with, because we all had the same initial goal of just wanting to make this division the best division that we possibly could, where you didn't have to make anything different from who was a superstar, who was a male, and who was going to main event. We just wanted to be, the top.
That makes sense. And it's yeah, I feel like it was like regardless of what status people were at, it was like you guys were all trying to change
We're
the game
trying to
together.
say, yes.
Yeah. So when you first started out, did you realize that you'd be wrestling Charlotte and Bailey as much as you did, or did like those rivalries grow organically?
It grew organically, but you do get to wrestle the same girls when you have such a small roster.
True,
So, like,
true.
again,
That's
when
a
you
good
only
point.
have 8 girls, you're gonna wrestle them every single weekend. So it came to a point that we're just like, we would look at the card, we were like, again, again, again. Me and Bailey, I can't tell you how many, matches that we've had that haven't been filmed on TV. We were the opening. It's called a dark match, so just to warm up the crowd. And that's where I went. I went from warming up the crowd to main eventing. That's how my beginnings went to NXT. That's how I had to climb my way up to the top. I went
Yep.
to warming up the crowd to be like, hey guys, are you awake? You guys ready for the show? Here comes some good action. So, prepare. This is what you're going to see in the future too. Just now I'm lost track. I'm like, this is so crazy. You're bringing me back to memory lane. Like, wow.
I know.
But yeah, every single TV, me and Bailey would go to the car and be like, we're wrestling again, again. And that would be for months on end until finally we were given a storyline and put on TV and finally had that program. But we're thankful for those dark matches because we got to work with each other and our chemistry were just so ready to click. That was good on TV as well.
Yeah. So, because in 2015, this was a very big year for you. You win the NXT Women's Championship. And one of your fights with Bailey was voted the match of the year by the fans. So, what made that specific match so exciting? Do you remember that match?
Of course, that's
Of course.
my
Okay.
that's my number one match that I get asked about. It's the most talked about match, really in the history of women's wrestling, and I'm so thankful for that match because that really changed the game, um, of everything in the business. I really feel for women. I remember that match so clearly because what was it, 2 months before I got called up to the main roster, so I finally made it to Monday Night Raw, my dream since I was a 10-year-old kid. And I am the NXT Women's Champion. So here we are at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, the first time that we're out of Florida. The first time that NXT is in front of a large scale audience, just like the WWE. We sold out the Barclays Center, just like Monday Night did, just like SmackDown did. So we were so equal to the WWE brand. Just this little organization, this little talent. It's because of Sasha Banks, because of Bailey, because of Sami Zayn, Finn Balor. So I remember just wanting to, just leaving a lasting impression of what I wanted my name and legacy to be in NXT before I got called up fully and dropped the title. And I just really wanted to show them, like, first of all, we should have been the main event, number one.
Hell
And
yeah.
second of all, I'm going to make sure you guys remember this match for the rest of your lives, because I wanted that match to be the greatest women's match of all time. And it happened to be the greatest women's match of all time.
That's awesome. So this is me being a novice, is the way that you ascend through the ranks, most of it must be based on like how much fans love you, right? Because that's you gotta have that engagement. And I mean, like I said, WWE fans are avid fans. So
They are.
for you, like, do you think what do you think made you able to move up so quickly through the ranks? Because like again, you just kept going and moved very quickly through it.
I think number one has to be because of my work.
Yeah.
And then number two, the fans respecting and loving my work. Um, because they loved it so much, their engagement with me, they were chanting, I want Sasha, back when I first debuted in NXT, or I first debuted on the main roster. Like, they let everybody know, they let WWE know what they want to see.
Yeah.
So they're always behind me, they have my back no matter what. And if you look at my career and my championship leaks, it doesn't match up to some of the women, but because of my match history, because of my first time evers and what I do in that ring, I think the fans respect my work and my craft so much that they just get behind me, and I'm just so thankful that I have their love and support.
How good does it feel to have the fans and the crowd chanting your name? Like we want Sasha. That's so sick.
It feels so crazy because it's just like, when I went from being a bad guy to the fans hating me and booing me to them changing their tune and being, they want me and they love me. So
Yeah.
it's always so weird to see what reaction I'm going to get with them. But no matter what it is, all the energy that I do get, it's just so, like, it's just something that you just need to have all the time. You just get so entranced into it. You're like, oh my gosh, you guys are the best. It's why
Do
it
you
makes me why I'm a wrestler.
Yeah, for sure. You like feed off that energy. So one, I want to touch on this. When you said like you were the bad guy and now you're a fan favorite or, one of the good guys. So good guys, bad guys, face, heel.
There you go. Yes.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
So can you explain that a little bit?
So a bad guy, a face, or a heel is the bad guy. It's the one that, it's the villain.
Yeah.
It's the guy that you want to boo, and he's gonna do everything he can to make the crowd just hate you. And then we have our baby face that the
Baby
fans are
face.
behind, and they want to see them kick the bad guy's butt. So, I'm in between sometimes. I go back and forth.
Okay. Is there one you like better?
I like being the bad guy.
Okay.
It's
All
so much
right.
more fun, and it's a lot easier to get fans to hate you than to like you. It's
Interesting.
it's really hard to get people to like you because everybody wants to be the cool guy, and everybody wants to see somebody kick their ass. Nobody wants to see, like, oh my god, I want the championship back. For some reason, just people don't like when good guys win.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's psychologically weird. I don't know.
No, it makes sense. You kind of I get that. Do
You
you
want the bad guy to win? You
Well,
like the
it's like
villains?
no, it's not necessarily bad guy. It's more so it's kind of like rooting for the underdog, you know? A little
Maybe.
bit?
The baby face should be the underdog then. If they're doing it good, then
Oh,
the
they
fans will be
should
behind them.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So you said, you get energy from the crowd regardless of if they're cheering for you or they're booing you. So you even it's kind and I'm kind of equating this to like when I'm playing away game, right? The crowd is booing you, hates you, cheering for the other team. I feed off of that. Like I
Yeah, you do.
still
I
find
bet.
energy in that because it's like, oh yeah, you don't like me, like I'm gonna go make you not like me even more, you know?
Yeah,
So do you feel the same way?
I do. And it's such a good feeling. It's
Yeah.
like, I love taking that away from people. I love making them angry. And I know that the fact that I did that with my energy or because of my performance, it just lets me know, like, my level of connection with them. Because a lot of times fans can change the wave of a match or the wave of a promo, they can take over. They are very, very in the know of like, let's take over, guys, come on. But you got to be ahead of yourself, and you got to have a voice and a bass to let them know, like, no, let me take you for this ride, and let's see if I can make you like me, or actually, let me see if you hate me. So it's such a cool
Ah,
ride and experience that we get to play with.
yeah, that is very interesting that you said that because in speaking with my friend, she was saying that even sometimes based on fan reaction during a match, decisions will be made. Okay, it's actually we're gonna like turn it this way. Is that what happens?
It can happen that way. It can definitely happen, and not only can it happen that way, it can happen because some people just forget to kick out, or
Interesting.
people can get knocked out, and things can happen. You never. That's the thing with WWE. You never know what's going to happen because it's live,
Yeah.
and that's the scary thing, and that's the fun thing about it too. Just like, all right, all hats are off. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Love that. That's so
I
cool.
hope I get you to watch it now. I want
No,
you
I
to be a
am. I'm like,
fan.
I am so invested. You have no idea. I'm very excited to watch. So back to kind of like your ascension, you were drafted to the Raw brand in 2016. So can you first explain to the listeners Raw in relation to WWE and just give the layout landscape of what that means is?
So Raw is our longest program within WWE. It's been on television for over 25 years. And SmackDown is like our second brand, which is on Friday nights. Raw is 3 hours long and SmackDown is 2 hours. So on Raw, you might get a little bit more time to have more time because it's a 3 hour show. But that's like our flagship show. So
Mm.
Raw was the show that you wanted to be on. So I was really nervous going from SmackDown to NXT to finally having just one brand, and that being Raw. And because it was so different from SmackDown, I wanted to make sure my brand was the talked about brand because I was on it.
I mean, it was because
It was.
in your first appearance for Raw, you win the WWE Women's Championship for the first time.
I did, but it wasn't my first appearance. It was my first, Raw Women's Championship.
Championship, got it.
Yes.
Were you surprised that you
I
won?
was so shocked. I remember going to the Staples Center. You see, when you go to TVs, you never know what you're going to do on the show. Um, so, like always, I would just go in, bring my bags to work, get my catering, go to the ring and see what the card was. And then I saw that it was me versus Charlotte. And I remember Triple H pulling me aside and I was like, "You're winning the title tonight." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "In the main event, what?" Just like that. And I was like, whoa, what? Just like so in
Yeah.
shock. The main event in the Staples Center, what a historic arena. And a woman didn't get to main event prior to that for 7 years prior to that. And that was the second time ever a woman got to main event, a Monday Night Raw. So, and being in the ring with Charlotte Flair, who was one of my biggest rivals in NXT and someone who I trained with and grew up with, it was such like the biggest dream come true for me to have that match and to have that win there.
Yeah, that's incredible. As you're kind of climbing the ranks and putting your stamp on WWE, how are you personally measuring success in your career? Is it like your athletic skills in the ring, aiming for bigger and bigger fights, like headlining? Like what were you focused on in those first couple years?
Those first couple of years was just having the respect and getting the same time as the men. I didn't want a 5 minute segment. I wanted a a 2 seg, which is like having, an 8 minute match and another 8 minute match. Like I wanted the long segments, just like the guys. I just didn't want to be like high and by on TV. I wanted to main event. I wanted to be headlines of pay-per-views. I wanted to do media. I wanted to be on the posters. So I just always had that goal set of just being the face of the company. So the
Mm,
first 2 years, I was just going so hard that I never really took the time to be like, okay, breathe. You gotta remember everything you just did, prior to that. But that's the thing with WWE, everything's so fast. We do live events on the weekend, we do our television show, go back home, pack your bags, and just do it again that you didn't really get to have time to even, you know, enjoy the win of being a
mm.
champion because I had to go do media, or I had to go do this, or I had to go, it was just always doing something.
Yeah. And that leads me into perfectly into my next question is what does your life look like as a WWE superstar? It sounds like craziness.
It's crazy. So right now it's pretty easy, but we're going back on the road soon, which I'm so thankful. I've missed the fans so much.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but prior to the whole pandemic, we were on the road 5 days out of the week. We would travel all over the world and do, 2 weeks of tour in the Europe, and weeks of tour and all over the different countries. And we're always in a different town every single night, whether it was flying or driving. But I can't say that I have to say that I love it. I love it
Yeah.
because it's the experience and getting to meet so many different people from all over the world, and just the experience alone of just going to different states and meeting different fans and feeling different energies and hearing different crowds, and doing something that you love. It's so surreal that you can't even explain it. It's
Yeah.
such an energy thing to travel and to go to the gym and to work out hard, and then to go wrestle. Then you got
Yeah.
to go to the do all over again. It's such a almost like a high victory that you're just like, what is my life? This is crazy.
I'm sure.
You feel like a rock star.
I mean, you are a rock star. Are you kidding me? Jeez. Um, I'm curious about injuries and just the physical risk that you put your body in being a professional wrestler. How do you approach that in your mind? Like if I was you, I would be nervous all the time. But then I was like, wait, Kelley, you do that on the soccer field. Like there's a chance that you could, I mean, knock on wood, get injured at
Yeah.
any moment. But WWE it's such a physical sport and you guys are putting it all on the line every night in and night out. Like how do you handle that on your body?
Taking care of it. You
Yeah.
have to take care of your body. You have to, whether it's with meditation, just your
Mm,
mental mindset, ice baths, cryotherapy, massage, the chiropractor, stretching, yoga, everything that I possibly can for my body to make it heal. I can, just because I don't want to be inflamed. I don't want to, be angry because I'm so compressed and tightened up. Because when you
mm,
do fly, when you do travel in a car for 5 hours, I'm like this. So I don't just get hurt from bumping in the ring. I got to travel all like this, and,
yeah.
hurt my back, hurt my hips, hurt my arms, because I just don't want anybody touching me as well as sitting next to me in the middle seat. Excuse me, sir. But it's just a focus. If you want to be the best, you have to take care of yourself like the best. Your body is your tool, it's your instrument. So I have to make sure that I put in the work with it.
That yeah, I mean, I feel you. And you do use all those recovery methods. Like that sounds
Y-
exactly like my regimen.
yes, I have to. If I don't, I know something's off. I always want to feel the best when I'm in that ring, because, like you said, my I can end my life in there. Anything can happen. I can, break my arm, break a leg, and or never have a career. And I'm thankful because of what the training that I've done, because of the recovery. I want to make sure every time I go out there, I'm walking right back out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious. You brought up meditation as a recovery tool, and in 2019, you took a 4 month hiatus from WWE, and you were very honest at the time, saying that it was because you were depressed and that you felt like you'd lost yourself. So, and even talking to you today, like it's I can tell that Mercedes and Sasha are like one and the same, but you had this incredible quote that said you hadn't heard Mercedes, your real name, in a very long time. um so can you talk about that a little bit? Like I can't imagine, because you have like it's you're one and the same, but then part of it is like Sasha is your bigger than life personality, right?
Yeah.
But then you have even said, you don't love being in front of cameras, like you probably don't love maybe doing media, but you have to and it's part of it. So what made you realize you needed to take a step back and take care of yourself and take care of Mercedes, and in turn was taking care of Sasha?
It was from everything, from that
Yeah.
grueling schedule and never getting to take in those wins and understanding my victories and, you know, taking my losses really, really hard and just being a baby. I started wrestling when I was 18, got signed when I was 20, straight on the road when I was 23, and just had that nonstop career of being Sasha Banks right when I was 20 years old
Yeah.
and having my hair color change and not seeing my real hair for so long and just losing my kind of like myself, and I lost
Yeah.
my name. Not even my mom called me Mercedes. My friends didn't call me Mercedes. They called me either the boss or Sasha Banks. So
Wow.
when I was at home, I was just really lost and confused. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I just was not happy. This little girl who was so obsessed with wanting to be a WWE superstar felt like, you know, her dream was like coming to an end, and it wasn't everything that I ever dreamt of as a kid anymore. So I didn't want to hate something that I loved my whole life. So I told myself that I need to take a break and walk away from it to find myself and to find out who Mercedes was. Because at that point, all I knew was Sasha Banks.
Yeah. Makes sense. So what did bring you back around? Like what got you, you were like, all right, I'm ready to get back into it.
My always love is
I
before
was about to
name.
say, yeah.
It was just that urge that I missed it so much, and just I was thankful for the time off. You know, I got to take my wig off and see my beautiful brown curly hair. I was like, oh, okay, I remember that Mercedes. Wow, your hair is actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You have hair, thank God. Okay, you remember your name. That's good. You can do this. And I wanted to know who I was without WWE. I wanted
Mm,
to know if I even liked anything else than wrestling. I wanted just to have a hobby because anytime I talk to somebody, it's like, what do you like? I'm like, well, one thing. Actually, I don't want to talk about it all the time because that's just my life 24/7.
yeah.
So, you know, I finally found things that I had you know, an interest in. I liked
Mm,
other things, and I went to therapy, and I found meditation, and I went to the beach, and I was just like, okay, there's life, or there's more to things, and oh, I can still love wrestling too. Great.
yeah.
Oh, and I can still. Oh, okay. Life is everything I want it to be because I can create my own reality to it.
For sure. I think that's so important. And I feel like whether you're Sasha Banks or you're not Sasha Banks, like being able to love you and who you are and knowing that, okay, and I think as athletes, it happens to a lot of us. We become like we're defined by our athletic careers, who we are on the
Right.
field, the pitch, in the ring, and we're not sure if we really. I think a lot of people struggle with like, do I like myself outside of that? So it's an interesting thing, and I'm thankful you were able to realize you needed to take a step back, and then you did still like the person that was, you know, underneath the wig, and that's, yeah, that's, I think that's that happens a lot, and and something, it's people, a lot of athletes don't talk about or like don't feel confident enough to um to say they need some time. So props to you for being able to realize you needed it, and I'm glad that you got what you needed.
Thank
And
you.
after 2019, this year, you come back at WrestleMania 37. You face off against Bianca Belair. I'm saying that correct, Belair?
Bel Air.
Belair.
Yeah.
It was the first time in WWE history that two black superstars faced each other in the main event of the show, not just black women, but black wrestlers, period. Like, to put in perspective to listeners, WrestleMania is wrestling Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the biggest stage for the sport. So when you first learned that that was going to be the matchup, were you, was it like a pinch me moment?
It was that whole month was such an anxiety thing for me because
Really?
we had no idea who was going to main event WrestleMania. And that year before, I was telling my best friend Bailey, I'm like, I'm going to main event WrestleMania 37. And it was always my dream to main event a WrestleMania. So I was just putting it out there in the universe and really striving and working towards it. So the
I
month
love that.
before WrestleMania, I really thought, you know, I heard rumblings that I was going to be the guys. And I was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
How can I change
All
this?
I
How
can
can I change this?
all I can do is be me and just keep on doing my work as best as I can and show Vince that you know, if I'm not the main event, then I don't know what main event you're gonna have because you're
This is
looking at it.
yeah.
So it was legit. The Wednesday before WrestleMania, I found out that we were the main event, and I was again so nervous because I was asking around like, "Did you get the card? Did anybody tell you?" Blah blah blah, and they're like, "You're not the main event," and I go, "No one told me that." I'm like, "Okay, I still have time. No one, it's not announced. No one said
Yeah.
anything. You know, I'm gonna go to rehearsals, and if I find out, all I can do is maybe ask Vince, and that's all I can do." I went to rehearsals, and TJ Wilson, who was a producer in WWE, he told me that I was the main event, and I just instantly started crying, and I was just like, "Whoa, wow, no
That's incredible.
way!" Like
Yeah.
I knew it. It's something that I wanted, just to finally hear the words that we were the main event. It was so overwhelming. Like it's bringing me back tears. It was
Oh,
crazy. It's crazy
yeah.
just because it's the biggest thing that you can ever do in wrestling.
Yeah.
And my heroes haven't even got to do what I've done. So not only that, and just being a woman and being an African American woman, it's just we're checking off so many things just in one box. But the biggest thing that I got to check off was just my biggest dream in my heart, you know, fully accomplishing that last check mark on my list of everything that I had written down since I was a kid. So you know, that was just last month, and I'm still just like thankful. I'm on vacation right now, still soaking that in.
Yeah.
So
Riding high.
I'm so thankful, and I'm just like ready for what's next.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible and so cool to hear you say like you manifested that. You were like, I want to be
I
the main
wanted
event.
it so bad.
Yeah. And you put it out in the universe and you got it. And from 10 years old to now, and you just said you've got to check off everything you've ever wanted
Everything.
out of the sport, which is not a lot of people can say in their athletic careers, which is like so cool. And on top of it, you did so many things that no one else had done before you. Like that you are a true boss. You are the boss. Groundbreaker, like incredible. So that's amazing. It's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're about to run out of time, but we have a couple repeat questions that we do at the
Okay.
end. So the JWS podcast is presented by Heineken and celebrates women in sports at the top of their game, where each athlete is unique and successful and has a story to tell. So, Sasha Banks, who's been the one person in your life that's had the biggest impact on your career and why?
Just one? Oh my God. Well, everybody who's a fan of Sasha Banks knows it's Eddie Guerrero. If it
Okay.
wasn't for him, I would not be in the WWE. I wouldn't have the dreams that I've had, and the chase that I had. If it wasn't for him, he was just someone that really inspired me to be, you know, everything that I am now.
Cheers to Eddie. Love it. That's
Yes.
awesome. All right. Second question. They say work hard, get lucky. How much of your success is predicated on luck?
Maybe 1%.
Ooh,
Maybe
I
1%.
think you're the first person to say 1%, but I love it. Okay,
Why
tell me
not?
why. Yeah.
Because sometimes you need luck on your side to get people to even notice you, to even
Mm,
change their mindset, to have a second thought. People can have some kind of perception on you, and just walk by and be like, wait, what? So, ding dong, my head. Whoa, that could be luck. You know, anything can happen for people's mindsets can change, and someone's opinion can change the whole world, and a view of, you know, how they view somebody. So I definitely think luck has been on my side a lot of times, just having eyes on me and the right opportunity um, in my play. So yes, I would say luck is on my side all the time.
all right. 1% luck, 99% hard work, and you have grinded, I mean, since you were 10 years old, which is incredible. I'll give you that. So
Thank you.
last question. You've accomplished so much already. We just touched on the fact that you have sat here and checked off everything you've ever wanted to accomplish in pro wrestling. Where do you go next and how do you keep pushing?
Where do I go next in wrestling?
In
or in
anything,
life?
just in life. I mean, you can define this question.
I
All
mean,
you.
there's so many things that I want to do.
All right.
And sometimes I just get overwhelmed with myself. I'm like, can I do it all? Can I be it all? And I think I got time. So yeah, there's so much. I don't even know if I want to say it all, because I want people to see it. But
Fair enough.
as people already seen, I'm in The Mandalorian, or I was on The Mandalorian, so I
Oh
like
yeah.
acting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my album out there someday. So a rapper,
Nice.
I'm pretty cute. So a model,
Okay.
a producer, a holistic doctor. You know, there's so many things that I want to do. A farmer.
Oh, I love it.
There's so much.
That's incredible. That is probably the best answer I've got. I freaking love it. Well, Sasha Banks, Mercedes, this was amazing. I cannot wait to watch you and follow you and cheer you on, even if you are a baddie. And you are just an absolute boss, groundbreaker. Thank you for the time today. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. I want to play soccer with you.
Yeah, come on.
I'll get my cardio up.
You teach me some things, a little check here, I'll teach you how to kick the ball.
That'd be so cool.
Perfect. For all our listeners out there, you can catch Sasha Banks on SmackDown every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. So make sure you go watch and cheer her on, regardless if she's good or bad. Sometimes to succeed, you can't do it alone. You need a team that understands your business on a personal level. WIS takes a progressive approach to help you win. Think less calculators, more conversations. WIS is a proud supporter of this podcast and the JWS community. To discover how WIS is more than just an accounting firm, visit wis.com/JWS. That's WISS.com/JWS.